whosoever exalts himself will be humble, and whosoever humbles himself will be exalted. And that's according to Matthew chapter 23, verse 12. Pleasant Sabbath to all of you wonderful children. Wherever you are, in Guyana or overseas, whether you are in your home, in your living room, your kitchen, your bedroom, wherever you are, I greet you in Jesus' name. As usual, this is Pastor RayJonas with you another time for our Children's Sabbath School story. I hope you liked and shared our story that was done last week. Did you? I trust you did. Now, boys and girls, let us recap something of last week's lesson. Remember, there are three things you normally remember for me, which is the memory verse, the story, and the main character. All right? In our recap today, I hope that you are going to be able to say what you have remembered. First of all, what was the name of our story? Yes, the name of our story was The Walls That Fell. And our memory verse was, I can do all things through Christ that strengthens me, according to Philippians 4, verse 13. And of course, our main characters there were, we had Rahab, who helped to hide the spies. We had Joshua, that led the people out of Jericho. All right? And of course, all the others that were there with Joshua. Children, for the homework. Boys and girls, have you done the homework? Remember, the homework was for you to learn the song, Round the Walls of Jericho. So all of you children, wherever you are at this time, I want you to stand. All right, we're going to do some actions now. All right, you're going to stand where you are and we are going to sing and march around the walls of Jericho, and we're going to shout until those walls tumble down. All right, and so we have some boys and girls who did learn the song. Remember, the song was Round the Walls of Jericho. So listen, and we're going to have some of our Sabbath school children sing the song Round the Walls of Jericho. And I hope you are standing where you are in your bedroom, your kitchen, your living room, and you are also going to sing and march, all right? All right, let's go. 1, 2, 3.
Round the walls of Jericho, round the walls of Jericho, round the walls of Jericho, the army went. 7 times without a stop, 7 times without a stop, 7 times without a stop, the army went. When the people made a shout, when the people made a shout, when the people made a shout, the walls fell down.
Then into Jericho at last,
into Jericho at last, into Jericho at last, the army went.
Very good, boys and girls. And I hope all of you who are viewing us, that you have been able to join in and sing the song that you have learned for your homework, Round the Walls of Jericho. Very good, boys and girls. Now for today's memory verse. Today's memory verse is, humble yourself in the sight of the Lord, and he will lift you up. That's according to James chapter 4, verse 10. It says, humble yourself in the sight of the Lord, and he will lift you up. And boys and girls, this is saying to us that we need to practice to be humble. And when we humble ourselves before the Lord, he is going to lift us up. Remember, in my opening comments, I quoted a verse from Matthew 23, verse 12, that says, whosoever exalts himself will be humble, and whosoever humbles himself will be exalted. Now, boys and girls, when the verse talk about exalting oneself, you know you have some people who love to show off, who love to boast and brag about themselves. That is what the word exalt talks about. And so when we like to brag and boast about ourselves, and we're so proud and we feel lifted and we feel like we're better than everybody else, the Bible says that God is going to humble us. And humbling there means that God is going to cause us to know that we are not on top of the world. He's going to cause us to come to realize that we are not the best. So when he humbles us, all right, he's going to put to shame, or he's going to shut or close the mouth of all those persons who like to exalt themselves and present themselves as being better than others. Now, as usual, children, remember there are three things you are going to remember for me at the end of the story, which would be our memory verse for today, the name of our story, and of course the main character. Now, boys and girls, for today's story is taken from the book 2 Kings chapter 5 and from verses 1 through 19. All right? And our story for today is entitled, Naaman Learned to Obey. All right? Naaman learned to obey. Boys and girls, what does it mean to obey? Now, when an instruction is given and we follow that instruction, it means that we have obeyed that instruction. There are many children who do not like to follow instructions, and that is not nice. We're going to learn today about a man called Naaman and how Naaman learned to obey. Boys and girls, remember Joshua last week led the Hebrew people, all right, to the battle against Jericho, and they won. Now, many years ago, these Hebrew people, cleanliness for these Hebrew people was a very important thing. Cleanliness of the body, all right, in terms of bathing and ensuring that you were clean and tidy. That was very important for the Hebrews. And even though they hadn't bathtubs and showers and so on like we have, their main place, the main place for them where they went to have a bath was the rivers. All right? They went to have their bath in the rivers. And they were also very keen about someone in those days touching a dead animal. And so if you touch an animal that is dead, you're considered to be unclean. And so you had to go and bathe and have yourself purified. And then for a number of days, you could not enter the tabernacle or the temple that we call church today. Yes, They had to wait for a number of days before they could have gone back into the temple. And those days were referred to days where they purify themselves, where they're considered in the eyes of the others to be clean again. And that was the custom of the Hebrews, all right? They were very careful about being clean. Now, there was a man called Namaan, and Namaan was the leader of an army. He was leading the army of Syria, all right? And so he was the captain of the Syrian army. And like today, boys and girls, like for us today, we understand that the president of the country, all right, is the chief captain of the army, all right, and after the president, we have the chief of staff, but the president is overall in charge. All right, it's usual that the president is overall in charge of the army, and that was the position Namaan had. All right, but there was something about Namaan, boys and girls. Namaan was leprous. And leprous there means that he had a skin disease called leprosy. Boys and girls, in those days, when you have leprosy, and leprosy is a disease that causes all kinds of disfiguration of your skin that would result from sores all over your skin, all right? And leprosy is a sickness, is a disease that is infectious, or we can say it is contagious. Meaning, boys and girls, it can be easily transferred from one person to another and to another. It's just like when you are in school. I'm sure some of you would have had what we call red eye, but the scientific name is conjunctivitis. And when you have red eye, as we refer to it, the teachers would send you home. And that's because red eye is a disease that is infectious, it's contagious, it can be easily spread. And so if one pupil has it, it can be spread to a number of children. So they would send you home. Likewise, leprosy in those days, you had to leave the town or the city. The people in those days consider persons who are leprous to be outcast, meaning they're not wanted in the city among other people. They're considered unclean, and so they had to leave the city and go to somewhere where they would be by themselves. All right? It was also considered a chronic disease, and when we say chronic, we mean that it is not curable. You would have it all the time. So when they send you out of the village and out of the city and town, you had to be by yourself. And it was also believed that when you are leprous, that it's because of something wrong you have done. And so that is what would have caused the leprosy to come upon you as a form of punishment. So they were put away. Similarly, like the condition we have in our world today. Those persons who would have been infected with the coronavirus, boys and girls, you know that they have to be quarantined. And I'm sure by now the word quarantine is a word that is well known in all the families. It means the same thing as having to be put away. So when you have been diagnosed, or when the doctors found out that you have coronavirus, they put you away, and we call it quarantine. Similarly, the leprous people, they were put away. because they were considered to be unclean. And so here in our story again, we see that having to be quarantined is nothing new, because the leprous people in those days had to go by themselves, which was also a form of being quarantined. Now this man Naaman, he was leprous. But remember his status, all right? He was a chief, he was a leader of the army, and he was proud because of his position. So he approached a man of God called Elijah. Of course, he walked with money and he walked with gifts and so on to give this man of God who he hoped would heal him. But the man of God called Elisha did not even see him face to face, but he sent a message to him and said, look, you need to go to a river called Jordan and wash yourself or bathe 7 times. Boys and girls, you know what happened? Because Naaman was a ruler, and because Naaman was so proud of himself, Naaman said, look, why would he send me in such a dirty river? We have clean rivers in Damascus. That muddy, dirty Jordan River you are going to send me? And the Bible says Naaman was furious. He was vexed. He said, look, I am not going there. Boys and girls, you might be asked to do something that you don't want to do. Might be a particular chore at home, a particular work that you don't like to do. And so when you're asked to do it, you are very much displeased because you don't want to do it. But sometimes doing that thing might be important. Let's say it's cleaning your yard. You might not want to clean it, but then if you don't clean your yard, what can happen? You can become sick. You can become infected from being dwelling in a dirty environment. So Naaman was vexed. Naaman said, I am not going. He probably said, Elijah has passed me to send me to go and bathe in that dirty river. Does he know who I am? I am the chief of the army. And he left. Boys and girls, sometimes it's good for us to obey and to follow instructions. All right? In fact, all the time, we should follow instructions because the instructions we receive are for our own good. And so Naaman decided, he said, look, I am not going. Elijah has passed me. But one day, a little servant girl, Naaman had servants, all right, like we would refer to as maid, someone that's coming into our home to cook and wash and clean. Yes, there was a little servant girl in Naaman's home. And the girl said to Naaman, Master, it's a little thing the man of God asked you to do. Just go to the river Jordan and bathe 7 times. I am sure if he asked you to do a big thing, you would willingly do it. But this is not something too difficult. This is a simple thing he asked you to do. Why not go and do it? And Naaman finally decided to go. Boys and girls, when he went to Jordan River, of course, he was very reluctant to go. He was vexed he had to go, but he ended up going. And remember, the instruction says 7 times. So he went into the river Jordan. Of course, in his mind, he's saying, this muddy, this dirty, this smelly water, and I have better rivers in Damascus. Anyway, he went. And he went 1 time, 2 times, 3 times, 4 times, 5 times, 6 times. And after 6 times of trying and nothing happened, he said, look, I better don't bother with this because this might not work for me. But he went down the last time, which was the 7th time. Children, when he got up from the water, the Bible says his skin was as clean and smooth as a young boy. Children, do you see the importance of following instructions, especially when instructions are given from people of God? We must not allow our pride to take over us. Of course, it's good to be proud of ourselves, but not that pride that would cause us to feel high and mighty and too big to do little things. And just imagine, he refused to do what the man of God asked him to do. And yet God used a little girl to make him do what he was asked to do. So boys and girls, Naaman went and he dipped or he bathed 7 times and his leprosy was gone. All right? So Naaman learned his lesson. And this is a lesson for all of us, that we can learn to know that it is important for us to follow instructions, especially those given from the people of God. So Naaman learned an important lesson. He was able to learn that being clean is not about water only and which river is clean and which river is dirty, but he also learned that being clean is also being obedient. Boys and girls, I trust that you, or those of you who like to root up your mouth, whether you're at home or whether you're in school and you're being given instruction and you're vexed because you don't want to do it, I hope that you are going to learn from this story to know that it is important for us to follow instructions given to us. All right? Now I trust that you have learned something from our story today. Remember, I told you there are lots of stories in store for you. Now for your homework, I want you to retell this story. You might not say everything that I have said. You might not use the same words I have used. But you can retell the story to your friend. You can retell the story to someone in your home. All right? So retell the story to someone. All right? And that is going to be your homework. All right? Now for us to recap. Remember, our story was entitled, Naaman Learned to Obey. Our memory verse today says, humble yourself in the sight of the Lord, and he will lift you up, according to James chapter 4 and verse 10. And of course, the main characters of our story today would be the little servant girl. She played an important role. It's going to be the man of God, Elijah, and of course, Naaman, who learned his lesson. I just want to remind you, children, to stay humble and blessed, and do practice frequently to wash your hands, which is also an instruction given. I hope you are pleased to follow that instruction, because that instruction is for all of us good, that we would stay healthy. Until I see you again next week, I want you to stay blessed and be encouraged to follow instructions given to you. God bless all of you, and I see you again next week.